Welcome back to Boys and Ghouls Film Review, guys. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, everybody.
And as I often say in the past, if you are trolls among you, I advise please leave this podcast.
They're left, okay? Luke, move on.
Anyway, so tonight we'll be reviewing a very good classic, or if I can call it a classic, the Towering Inferno, which was released in 1974.
Now, as we've said before, we do primarily horror, sci-fi and fantasy, but we also do the odd good movie that we think is worth reviewing.
And we consider this one a really... Well, when you look at it, as I mentioned in the past, we were going to probably do a few natural disaster-related stuff.
And this is,
considering that fire
is sort of like a natural disaster.
sort of a natural disaster, and if you paint it in the right light, you see for yourself that it is kind of scary.
Well, natural things can be scary, because you can't stop a tidal wave or a tsunami. You stand there and get killed. You get in the middle of a forest fire, you get killed. You know, in the middle of an earthquake, there's a good chance the building's going to fall on top of you. There's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, or a volcano eruption.
Well, and speaking about that, all those different movies, earthquakes and volcanoes, we might do a couple of other disaster-type movies. We haven't decided which ones yet.
Yeah.
We won't do lots and lots of them, but we think's a good review.
Yeah, we will probably do either 3 or 4, depending on
maximum.
Yeah. As I said before, we're not going to make this all about a theme.
Well, like I said, we did all the Alien movies and that sort of stuff, so we think it's only fair to do a few of these, not just one. But this one is one of my favourites.
Our favourites.
And one of her favourites, one of our favourites. Yeah. I thought you liked Dante's Peak better.
Well, I do like this, the Tower Inferno, because it just seems interesting, and I like the fact it takes place in the city, and you think
in a real building,
supposedly real building, and it could really happen, maybe.
Yeah, it could. That's the whole problem with it, and that's.
And the weird thing is that last year, when we were going for our own natural disaster, a lot of people didn't know what to make of it.
Look, a pandemic is not a natural disaster. Okay, can you move on?
I know, but
I don't think anyone wants to hear about the pandemic.
I know, but in this movie, they when natural disaster was starting to hit, they either choose to ignore it or just hopefully it goes away.
Now, I'll do my bit. Okay, this wonderful movie was produced by a guy called Irwin Allen. Now, I mentioned him a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about reviewing another movie which was done on a skinny budget. And Irwin Allen, I referred to him doing a few TV series, such as Voyage of the Sea, Time Tunnel, Land of the Giants, and they were all done on this U-string budget. That was before he got into doing these disaster type movies.
For the record, guys, I'm a big fan of some of those TV series. I like Time Tunnel, and I like the Land of the Giants.
And she hasn't seen Voyage of the Sea yet. But anyway, irrespective.
Anyway.
He did those first. He did those in the 60s. They were done in the 60s, and these movies we're reviewing, this movie is 1974, so this was so many years after he did the TV series. So he's gone from TV to movies quite well. Anyway, irrespective.
Didn't you say to me the other day that... never mind. We'll go for reviews later on.
It will come into it.
It'll come in way to the end of this story.
Excuse me. I've had this cough for a year now. It's terrible. Now, directed by John Guillermin, I think is the right name. Guillermin. Screenplay was by Sterling Silliphant. Now, interesting this. This is based on 2 books. The Tower by Richard Stern and The Glass Inferno by Thomas Scotia and Frank Robinson.
Yeah, I was looking at the book the other day about the Glass Inferno, and it has a similar ending where they blew up the water tanks in the end.
I was under the impression that they got the ideas from just 2 books. Okay, we do a composite. But that was not the case. There was 2 studios involved with this. I think it was 20th Century Fox and Warner Brothers, and each of them had a copy of each book,
Yeah.
And one was going to do one movie, and one was going to do the other movie, and they thought, well, there's 2 samey, so they got together and did the collaboration. So they worked together to give us this fine product.
Oh, another thing about this movie is after seeing this film, novelist Roderick Thorpe had a dream that same night after seeing it about a man being chased through a skyscraper by gun-wielding assassins or assailants. This was the inspiration for his 1979 book, Nothing Lasts Forever, which eventually was made into the film Die Hard.
Well,
And
there you
funny
go.
enough, when we were watching it, this movie last night, I also had Die Hard, set aside in case if I wanted to change my mind and watch that instead.
Well, there you go. That's spooky.
Don't you think that's a bit interesting, Mike? That
Yeah, it is.
That automatically I wanted to watch either this movie or Die Hard.
And you think about it, I mean, Bruce made a few good movies. I started a few good movies there, but when you got into franchise movies like Die Hard, he made, 4 movies? I think 3 or 4 movies? Whatever. And, that would have made him some good money and got his name out there more. He was in several other movies. I can't remember what they're called at the moment.
Yes.
But,
So
interesting.
who stars in this, Mike? I think there's
Well,
a very big box office famous people in this one.
This is, how do you put it?
Star.
There's an all-star cast in this.
Cool.
It goes on. It reads like a phone book in a small country town. Now, I'm only going to mention the 3 main actors.
Got it.
That doesn't mean I'm taking away from anybody else. So, but the main actors are Paul Newman. He plays Doug Roberts. He's the architect who actually designed the building. Steve McQueen is plays Michael Halloran. He's the battalion chief at the local fire brigade in San Francisco. And William Holden plays James Duncan, the guy who built the building. Now, I will mention a couple of people's names without not going too far. But Faye Dunaway's in it.
Yeah,
Fred Astaire's in it. Susan Blakely's in it. Richard Chambers in it. Jennifer Jones in it. O.J. Simpson is in it. Robert Vaughan's in it. And Robert Wagner. And there's a slew of other people, but the list goes on and on.
I gotta admit that this was a good cast of people.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what... It's all like with Airport. They
true.
had the Airport franchise. They kept throwing good, well-known stars into it.
Yeah, another thing about this, when William Holden was casted in this role, he got annoyed that he didn't get top billing, sadly enough. But he's not playing the main role.
The
2 main role ones are Paul Newman and Steve McQueen.
And the story was really revolving around those 2 guys.
Yeah.
And how they tried to save the people.
Exactly.
So, and William Holden was like saying, "Oh, not my fault. I didn't do it." Yeah, there's not really.
Yeah.
Give you a strong role to be leading.
Yeah,
man.
and practically all the time throughout this movie, he's the one who's out of the way of the danger.
Yeah. He should have died in the movie. Anyway, irrespective.
Nah, it wouldn't be fair. But at least he kind of redeemed himself by
Well, he said something at the end of it.
going down with the ship.
He couldn't do much to save this building, but he's going to trying to make damn sure nothing like this ever happens again.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
In some ways, in the end
Something like that.
of the movie, he does redeem himself in the story.
Well, at the end of it, he doesn't redeem himself, but he sees what a careless visionary.
He was.
Or whatever you're calling it.
Yeah, but remember when
I had a dream and the dream killed people.
Remember when he when his son wanted to get off the tower and he then punches him and says that to everyone that they will wait their turns each and if it's and pretty much he says that he and his son are going to come off last.
Son-in-law. Yeah, they're like a captain leaving a sinking ship. Well, this was a burning ship. Pretty much the same thing. Anyway,
yeah, exactly.
Do you want to tell the story now?
Yes, I might as well. As I said before, Floyd, what's her name? Faye Dunaway.
Faye Dunaway,
She
yeah.
reminds me a little bit of another character I mentioned in the past. What's her name?
I'm not going to tell you because I told you she doesn't look anything like her.
Well, she just has the same cheekbones.
Looks
and
okay.
similar
She
look.
reminds you a little bit of Sigourney Weaver.
A little bit.
Yes. Okay, right. Go
Anyway,
on. Move along.
So anyway, the story begins with Paul Newman playing Doug, who has just arrived in a helicopter to the tower that he built.
He's been away for a couple of weeks. He's been working hard, and he thought, well, they don't need me at the moment, so
Yeah.
I'll have a couple of weeks off and come back.
Yeah, he was away in the wilderness having
bears.
freshening his brain out. Anyway, he comes back and the tower is already built. It's a beautiful one and it's very tall, like Empire, like.
It's supposed to be the tallest building in the world.
Yeah,
I think
lot like
no, not like the Empire State Building.
maybe not the Empire State Building. I was thinking about the Twin Tower type tall.
That,
Anyway, so.
for its time, it was supposed to be the tallest building in the world.
Anyway, so.
Move
Anyway,
along.
so things are good and the place is awesome. Even Mike here was saying to me that for its time, this was a very modern day building.
This building was made. Well, this movie was made in the 70s, about 50 odd year ago, and the sets and the design of the building that's supposed to be in was pretty much state of the art, upmarket. Everything looked really good. A bit dated now, but gee, it looked really good when I first saw the movie 50 odd years ago. I said, wow, I'd love to stay in a place like this, but it's
true.
yeah.
Yeah, so.
But, a bit dated now, but things change.
Yeah, soon enough, Doug meets his lady love, who's in his office, and they have a bit of a secret. You know what?
You're riding the baloney pony, I think she's trying to say.
Yes, and they discuss their future, and it turns out she wants to do something else, and while he may want to look at trying to coax her into doing something he wants to do.
He wants to do something, and she's been offered the job to do something else, but she's been hanging out for 5 years to get, and they're sort of heading in slightly different directions. How's that?
Yeah. And of course, as often major disasters go, things do change.
Well, she changed her attitude in the end. She wants to be with her man. Yeah,
Of
there
course.
You go.
So
Yeah,
anyway, Doug then hears from some of the guys in the maintenance that they're having problems with the electricity, and
Yeah, they kicked on this backup generator, and some wires blew out.
yeah, they practically blew up.
Yeah, like bang.
Yeah.
So they put put a little fire out.
And then they discover within those wires they're not the wires that he required.
He specified higher grade wiring and something above the normal building code.
Yeah.
But they dumped the guy who was doing the electrical contracting, dumped it right down to the bare bone minimum that will meet the local standards for that city.
Yeah,
or
but
that
the
state,
problem
yeah.
is the wires are not suitable for
that building.
houses or buildings.
No, not for building. A building of that size.
Yes.
Yeah, the amount of current going through would burn wires out.
Yeah. Anyway, he then eventually goes to, I don't know who the guy who pretty much was, what's his name? Oh yeah, Roger, the son-in-law to dear old
James Duncan,
James
the
Duncan.
guy who built the building.
Yes,
right.
he's married to Suzanne Duncan, who's the daughter to dear old
It's all
James.
the family, folks.
Yeah. So he goes to him and he wants to go over the fact that he has gone and changed the specific recommendations that will make the building safe.
But pretty much, basically, what it is he's true to story. Things evolve, and William Holden, who's playing the guy who built the building, this James Duncan guy, was going a little bit over budget, so he had to word all the contractors there to what's their cost, and everybody trimmed the fat a bit off their what they're doing. So what he did here is his son-in-law, he dumbed down all the specifications down to meet the local requirements, but forgetting the safety aspect of it, and that created the problem. He's blaming the father-in-law, and the father-in-law's blame him.
Yeah.
So,
Meanwhile, while all this is happening, inside a janitor closet, I think it is.
yeah, it's a storeroom or something. Yeah.
Where there is a lot of flammable stuff there, like a lot of canteens that say must not be in a flammable area.
Yeah, flammable materials could be paint thinners, whatever.
Yeah,
With
whatever.
old rags laying there,
Yeah.
right underneath a power board. And you think a power board like that for that size building would not have been in that little
Yeah,
room.
so eventually
anyway,
the power thing blows up and starts fuming.
Yeah,
And eventually
sparked onto the rags
yeah,
and stuff.
and
Yeah.
eventually they the thing in the maintenance guys detected this, and they think don't notice any fire in the area
It
at
wasn't the
first.
maintenance guys, it was security guys.
Okay, the security guys don't notice it because they
You got CCTV and stuff, and there's no smoke. Of course, it's in a closet somewhere,
Yeah,
and there's no
janitors.
CCTV in the damn closet, is there?
yeah.
Gee.
Who designed this building? Nah, never mind. Anyway, moving on. So, they are arranging their special, opening ceremony where everyone is invited. Royalty, a few senators, the president.
Well, not royalty. You don't have
and-
royalty in America, but yeah, there was a senator, there was the mayor, there was a couple other people, high
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah, and Fred Astaire, who's con man, is there to meet a nice lady who's maybe wealthy.
To woo her and to deprive her of some money by selling her a fake
Document.
share issue or something, or
Yeah.
a bond or something. Yeah.
Yeah, so they meet up in her room, and she's staying in the same building, along with she also hangs out with a lady who's deaf, who has two children. They play a particular role in this movie, just so you know, and.
Everyone played a particular role in the movie.
True. So anyway, the party goes underway, and while this is happening, dear old Doug he's with one of the men, and they try to figure out what's going on. They find out the specifications. They even go to one of the other floors to look at some of the wiring, and found out that they're too hot.
Yeah, too much current's going through them. Yeah.
Yeah, and they phoned the guys in the basement, telling them to shut off the
External lights. Yeah.
because the whole place is blazing with lights.
Because they want to do it for a showpiece for that night. Yeah.
Yeah, to make it look all bright and colourful, like a bright Christmas tree, if you will.
Well, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, a bit risky, if you ask me.
Exactly.
And the security guards, they notice right away that the flames underneath the janitor's closet are starting to fume, and and one of the guys, the security guards, decide to check the thing out.
And open the door without thinking.
Yeah, and this is where the old man, I don't know his name, jumps on him before the flames start gashing out.
Yeah.
And this is where it gets really scary. And so, but of course, dear old James Doug, when Doug phones his boss, tells him about the fire, his boss shrugs it off and says, "It's just a small fire.
Can't touch us up here. We're so many floors away. Blah blah."
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so anyway, they call the fire brigade, and the fire brigade arrive, and eventually they try to evacuate as many people as possible. And of course, the people upstairs are the most likely, in danger because, the fire is going all over the place.
It's like it's going upwards.
Yeah, it's going up all
Fires don't normally burn downwards much. They'll burn up because the heat of the top of the fire heats up and burns the stuff above it more so than stuff below it.
Yeah. Didn't you say before to me last night that it was going up the sort of...
Well, the fire was going from floor to floor because it was going up the elevator shaft, it was going through the air conditioning ducts, it was destroying pipes and going through holes in walls, that sort of stuff. We don't have that problem as much nowadays because we've got penetration things for fire hazards and whatever.
It was also going up through the fire exits too.
Yeah. Which was blowing out the walls.
You normally never have that very often. I mean,
nowadays they're normally pressurised as well, so that'll keep the smoke and the fire out to a certain degree. But I don't think the compressors or exhaust fan things are working properly in the building.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us to Steve McQueen coming into the picture.
Dun, 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 dun.
So he then explains, gets everyone to evacuate everyone, and he then demands a list from the security officer to give him a list of the tenants there, because he explains to him that that certain, like,
different textiles and materials can give off different gases in a fire.
yeah, like
wool can give off cyanide or something or other. Ping pong balls, if it's a sporting good place, can give off
or
another
tennis
sort of
balls
toxic chemical.
too.
No, they're ping pong balls.
Yeah, ping pong
You ever smell a
balls.
ping pong ball and set fire to it? It stinks. It's hard to breathe. So yeah,
Yeah.
anything that would
Might cause
health issues with the firefighters or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
You don't want that.
No. So, of course, he does that, and he then goes to dear old James upstairs, and takes off his uniform so that no problems will alert.
He wasn't standing there naked. He only took his jacket off. And
Yeah,
things,
just
yeah.
his the heavy jacket, the fire jacket,
And his hat. Yeah.
and his gas thingy.
Gas cylinder and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, so he then approaches James and tells him, "We have a serious fire, and we want you to alert everyone in a calm way, so to not cause a panic."
Move their bottoms down to the foyer, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a word for it. So, at first he says how serious it is, and he says fires are always serious.
As any sensible person would say. Yeah.
And of course, he says that Steve McQueen says in this that while he's in charge, and anyone else who's so much as is up here outranks him.
Well, yeah, no. What he said is, the guy who built the building, Bucklugs, said, "I've got the mayor here. I'll have word to him, and he'll bloody overrule you." And the fire chief said, "Hey, when there's the meetings like this, I outrank the mayor.
Yeah.
I'm in charge. So do you tell the people here, or do I?"
So dear old James just nods his head and realizes that he's up the creek. So he eventually does tell them, and tells them that they're going to move all the people downstairs, below the fire, so to avoid danger.
And dinner wouldn't be late. I don't think they even saw dinner.
Yeah. So Michael which is Steve McQueen's name, he goes back downstairs to look after the fire. And while all this is happening, the fire is going out of control here and there. And,
Yep.
Yeah. And of course they did evacuate everyone except for a deaf lady, the deaf lady I mentioned.
Well, she couldn't hear anybody knocking on the door or telephone or anything. So,
So no one hasn't bothered to go up to her level to do a door knock, or even open the door.
Do a rap tapping on her chamber door.
Yes. So it's up to the security guard and let me see. And that lady I mentioned, she ends up going through one of the elevators down to the level and tries to tap on the door.
Yeah, that was that Jennifer Jones. What's she playing? Who's she playing?
I'm bad with names.
Lizalette something or other. Yeah, Lizalette Mueller.
Yeah,
nice lady.
Lisa, I think her name's. So anyway, she's, as I said before, she's tries tap, and then dear old Doug and the security guard arrive there, and they unlock the door and they head inside. The place is full of smoke and fire and all that stuff, and they eventually get the mother and her kids out.
Yeah, but the problem is O.J. Simpson takes the mother first, because and the other lady,
downstairs.
Lizalette Mueller, he stays there with the son, while
Paul
goes in and finds the girl.
Goes inside and tries to get her.
And when he comes out, and they try to find the way out, and
but
where
the whole place is.
O.J. Simpson, where he went, there's a fire there now, so they can't go that way.
Yeah, so
they got to find another way out of the place. Yeah.
So they have to head up, I guess, or they head the other way.
Well, they head different ways, and they end up going upwards because that's the only way.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could go. So and they end up going up the stairwell to where the party was on.
Yes, eventually, before they could get there, there was an explosion up the stairwell, which causes a gas leak, and the whole part of the building explodes and causes a bit of fracture between the staircase and the stairwell.
And hence, a couple levels of the stairwell is no longer there.
And this is where Paul, using his gymnastics skills, climbs down the stairwell.
Sarah said something that Paul Newman did his own stunts for this.
Yes.
Now, I know he wasn't really so many floors up, and there must have been something there. Like, some cushions or netting, a couple of meters down that we couldn't see, but he looked pretty fit doing that job, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. So it was kind of interesting that bit. So he ends up climbing down, and eventually he gets the children down
And the lady.
and the lady, and they continue on their way. While this is happening, dear old Doug confronts his son-in-law and tells him, if you've been messing with what's-he-face's plans, I'm going to hang you up to dry, and I'm going to hang you. In his words, mind you.
He was cross.
Yes.
Needless to say.
Yeah, and all the time, his son-in-law, he drinks his lungs out.
He don't drink your lungs out. He just got stuck into a bottle. He didn't care less.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he was to blame, and while his wife tries to be a good support, I think that
Yeah, his wife, Buggerlugs, whatever her name is,
Susan.
Yes, he goes over and tries to console him a little bit.
Oh wait, no, not Susan.
What's her name?
Patty. That's
Patty,
it. Sorry.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's a nice lady, and of course he says something obnoxious to her, saying that he compares her to her father.
It's sort of like a mini me sort of thing, So I'll look at you and I see your father, and and he was, it's insulting her, and she's just trying to be a nice wife. Yeah.
Yeah, she said that she was trying to. She came to this party because she wanted to be there for him.
Well.
But tough.
Bugger.
And he just continues to drink.
Yes.
So meanwhile,
drowning his sorrows, guys.
Yeah. Meanwhile, some of the firemen, they end up. Two of the firemen head up to the penthouse to try to, help the survivors get out. And of course, one of the senators suggested to James Duncan that maybe we can go down the fire stairs. So they tried to open both. One of the door is full of smoke, and the other one is completely won't break open.
Won't open. Yeah.
Won't open.
We find out shortly that there was a wheelbarrow full of concrete that was tipped over on that landing, and no one cleaned it up, so it was jamming the door. Concrete will do that.
Yes. And dear old Doug was a bit surprised when he sees this. He even tries to kick it a couple of times.
Out of frustration more than anything else.
Yeah, and annoyed that he couldn't be there to stop this. Even though, what a waste. So anyway, he leaves the kids alone with the lady while he climbs to the other side to get to the other door.
He climbs up through the roof and goes out the top to go the other door to go inside, and etc., etc., etc. And he finally makes his way through.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
Meanwhile, the another couple I should mention who didn't make it to the party, they get stuck between the fire, and both of them get burnt.
Robert Vaughan. Robert Vaughan was having a close encounter.
Affair.
Of a nice kind, with a nice lady in
his secretary.
Nice secretary, sexy Terry, in a little room they had off the side there, which had a bed in it. Very nice, very handy. And they didn't know the fire was on, and they couldn't phone out because
the fire was
he couldn't
dead.
phone out because he told the girl to turn off the switchboard so they wouldn't be disturbed.
Uh-oh.
And that's why they couldn't phone out and say, hey, we're here, come and save us. Oops.
Yes.
Crispy critters on the way, folks.
He tries to use a towel, the wet towel thing I mentioned.
Yeah.
And tries to get out that way, but the flames are all over the place.
And the amount of heat that was going for there, spontaneous combustion, set his clothes on fire. He only went a few meters in the room and it was already burning.
Yeah.
So,
and she tries to get away, and she tries to break some glass, but you know what happens if you break glass during a fire? You get a huge fire flame coming right out through the window.
Well, the air pressure changed. The air pressure inside the building's higher than what is outside, and it says it blows you out the window, and the fire pushes through and
she ends
destroys everything, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, you watch her body kind of fall from the window
and actually
on the ground.
Instead of using a dummy for that stunt, they actually used a probably stunt person, not the girl, because I mean, I saw the leg move like it was a human being, and I go, oh, that's interesting. Normally I throw a dummy out the window, but it's a close-up, so I suppose they use a stunt person. But they had a hand in front of the face, so you couldn't recognise it.
True.
Interesting.
So moving on.
Moving right along, folks.
Yeah. So the two firemen arrive to where the kids and the lady are, and they load up the door with C4, I think it is.
Plastic explosive.
Yeah, plastics explosive, but it was called C4.
Whatever it's called, I can't remember. Yeah.
And they blow up the door, and of course they explain it to Doug and James that there's no way they can go down that way.
Ain't no stairs.
Yes. Of course, this doesn't stop James' son-in-law to try to make a daring escape down. But unfortunately, you can only get so far, as we say.
And then he came back up.
Yes.
All sooty and smoky and disheveled. And he went straight over to the bar, grabbed the bottle, and proceeded to get totally obliterated.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Doug gets a message from our fireman, Michael. He explains to him that move the flammable stuff away from the windows, away from the doors, and to in the center of the rooms.
No, they're going to put a breaches buoy across to the buildings across from them, and they're going to shoot something for a projectile through the window with a rope on it to pull the ropes over and the rigging, and they had to break that window, but I wanted to get all the flammable materials away so the fire doesn't start around that window.
Yes, so anyway,
there you go.
That's what they did.
Bit of technical stuff.
And we have a brief scene between the president and his wife, who...
President?
Mayor, sorry.
The president wasn't invited.
I'm sorry, guys. I'm not good with ranks.
The mayor. The city's mayor,
Yeah, so he has a brief discussion with his wife, who is grieving that she hasn't contacted her daughter over the phone, and she remarks that if anything happens to them, she'd look after herself.
So he must be an adult.
She must be.
I mean, the mayor and his wife weren't spring chickens, so
No, they were practically in their.
Well, the mayor would have been up near retiring age, in the 60s.
And same could be said for her, obviously.
Well, yes,
Anyway, so
you think so?
So Doug arranges a bit of a lottery, sort of like when I think of Worlds Collide.
It wasn't a lottery.
Well, not a lottery, but
it was a numbering system.
Yeah, so
they were all supposed to get down if everything worked properly, so it can't be a lottery.
Okay. So he arranges a number of people, to be selected. So it's mostly men's and women's. So he gets his girlfriend or his wife to write up a number of numbers, and then they get a number, and his wife gets probably either the first ones.
But the point is that way they go in an orderly fashion. We can take 12 people. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Right. Next lot will be 13, 14, 15, etc. That's what it was. Not a lottery. See?
I guess so.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, eventually some helicopters were going to arrive to take a few of those people out of there. But unfortunately, during two of the women run out there and the helicopter heads in the wrong direction and gets...
A fireball comes up under it and blows it apart.
Yes.
Aha.
Blown to pieces. And what a shock. I think you told me the other day that it was those stupid women whose fault for
See, the problem
moving
is
out
the
there.
helicopter's coming on a particular angle to go onto the heliport on top of the building. And two of the females broke away from the group to run over to the helicopter before it landed. And then the guy veered off to, I think, to the left, which is toward the side of the building where the fire was. And then a fireball came up and took the helicopter out.
Yeah.
So if those girls didn't run up there in a panic, they probably would have been saved, and they might have been able to come back and get some more. But
Exactly. No. So anyway, moving back along. So they eventually do get. Doug gets the idea of getting some of these remaining survivors down through the elevator. The last few ones, anyway.
No, there was an external elevator on the building. You want to scenic ones, and they couldn't wire it to come up and down, but there's a thing called a gravity brake he set up.
Yeah.
So he went to the control panel and changed a few things. That it'll go down and just take those first 4 people down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that includes the little children and his wife and Lisa, the lady who protected the kitties.
Yeah.
And of course, let me see, what's the guy name who's Fred Astaire's character playing?
Yeah, that guy. Memory block. Harley.
Yeah, before
yeah.
Harley confides to her, telling her that he's not a wealthy businessman.
He's a charlatan.
Yes, and she actually really knew this.
She said, I knew that all the time. I know you haven't got a villa in France, or you haven't got this, haven't got that, and blah blah.
Yeah.
And she still liked him because
he was a nice, decent man.
No, he's a nice, decent man who was just trying to be a con man. His heart wasn't really in it. And she could see through all that rubbish. She was prepared to.
She was probably had meddled with con men in the past. I like to think so.
Well, yeah, she's not stupid.
Yeah, so she must have saw something nice in him.
Yeah, that nice.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Fred Astaire, I read somewhere when I was looking up information about this movie, I found out that Fred Astaire tried to write a song for the film, but his effects were deemed to be too old-fashioned, making the way for a newer, younger singer that sings "We May Never Love Like This Again."
Yeah, Maureen McGovern sang it. I don't remember who wrote it, but point is that Fred was going to write tunes for the movie, but too old-fashioned. So
bear in
wrong
mind
decade.
this is in the 70s, and the music scene has changed a lot over the years.
It happens. Yeah.
Well, we can't.
Fred wasn't terribly upset, I think.
Another thing about this music, John Williams
did the main music. Yeah.
And you guys know how much I love John Williams music.
Well, actually, Sarah worships the ground that John Williams walks upon when it comes to movie themes or whatever.
Well, he knows how to play the right music, right tempo, the right mood.
The right feeling. I mean, he did what? He did Star Wars, did he?
He did Star Wars, Indiana Jones.
What else?
Jaws, I think. I'm not sure. I might have to do a bit of
research.
Next time I watch it.
He does some really dramatic scores.
But he does do dramatic scores, and there's nothing like him, to be honest, out there.
Well,
except
you got that. Who's the other guy? I can't remember. There's another one or two guys. Back in the older movies, a guy called Dimitri Tomikin was doing a lot of stuff too.
Yeah. So John Williams is probably one of my favorite of composers over the years.
Oh yeah, he's brilliant. Henry Mancini's the other guy. Yeah, Henry Mancini did a lot of stuff.
That's it.
Yeah, Henry. he did a lot of good movie scores.
Yes. So moving back along, so they eventually get some of the women into the elevator, and of course, his wife was going to give her ticket to a waitress, I think it was, but her husband tells her, "No, you're going on this elevator, yada yada yada.
I'll see you later."
Yes, and they were gonna, as they get into the elevator and it heads down, something goes wrong. The elevator gets blown off the rail.
Well, there's an explosion down there in this near where they were, and it broke the rail, and the scenic elevator was hanging by the cable and couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah, and Lisa, the young lady, when the windows breaks,
and she fell out.
And all that stuff.
Yeah, well, she was, well, actually, that was her last film role too, I think. I don't think she died during the making of the movie, before you say anything.
sorry.
But I think that was one of her last movie roles.
Oh, that's a shame. So anyway, moving right along, eventually, let me see, Michael and a helicopter, they then try to save the people in that elevator, and eventually they put a grappling hook, and then they take the elevator and settle it down on the pavement safely.
Yeah, and a decent sized helicopter, wasn't a little egg beater. It was actually just enough power to carry the weight of the people in the elevator box thing.
Yeah. Meanwhile, while they eventually set up the special, what was that thing you mentioned?
The breeches boy.
Yeah, they arranged the breaching thing.
The breeches boy.
Yeah, and they start loading women into the
one
thing. One at a time, yada yada, and
slow process.
And of course, this is where, as the women were all gone, dear old Roger approaches his father-in-law and
with
says,
several cronies.
"We are next."
And he threw ripped his paper up. Then there's a big fight there, and he gets into this preacher's boy chair.
No, actually, before that, his father-in-law tells him that you all have numbers and you're going to stay to them. And if it's any constellation, guys, he then takes his son by the scruff of his neck and says he and his son-in-law are going to be the last ones to leave, obviously, as I mentioned earlier. And of course, then the fight breaks out, and Roger and a few other guys, they try to get on there, and the whole thing collapses.
Because he's in it, and the other guy, that senator guy.
Yes, the senator guy was trying to grab him and take him off there.
And the thing started to move, and he was hanging onto the frame, so I had the weight of him and the senator and another guy. At least 3 people's weight on it. It was too much for it.
Yeah,
and the ropes
it was
gave
one
away.
person per person.
Yeah, weight-wise, yeah. They had triple weight on it, and it gave away. So, well, couldn't have. I didn't like the other senator guy dying, but
well, he was a reasonable nice guy, and so you guys know he was.
Not all politicians are bad.
And so you guys know, he was also in Hustler, the TV series that's on Hustle, that's on ABC. If you guys watch BBC TV shows, stuff like that. Okay. Anyway, moving right along. Yeah. So, Doug tells Michael about what's been happening, and Michael tells him about how they're going to arrange for the water tanks in the air conditioner to be blown up so it will drown out the fire.
I said something ridiculous, like otherwise up to about 1 million gallons of water up there. And that could be. It's a big building and there's a lot of tanks up there. So,
Yes. So it was up to him because he was the only one who could organise the...
the fire chief guy, the battalion leader, he had to go up there. He got all the bad jobs, didn't he?
Well, in this case.
There was only 2 guys who could set the explosives, and the other guy's out there in a stretcher, badly burnt, and you're the other guy.
Yeah.
Oh
man! Thanks for your vote of confidence, everyone.
When they're telling him about it, says, "Well, we've already decided it's going to get done, and we just need you to go and do the job." And he said, "How do I get down?" They just looked at him. The only thing he said then was, "Oh shit," because he knew he couldn't come down once he's up there. I
swear, Mike.
No, that's what he said in the movie. He said, "Oh shit," because he knew he'd go up there, set the things, and he's going to be stuck up there with everybody else.
Yeah.
And he could die up there. That's it. Okay.
Yeah. So he heads up in there using a helicopter. This time,
dropped him off. He had one of the thermal suits on.
Yeah, and he meets dear old Doug there, and they start setting the detonators and the explosives. Yeah, and they then arrange for all the men to tie themselves down so they won't get floated out during the water.
Yeah, because they had that much water, it'd be like being hit by a waterfall. A lot of force in water.
Yeah.
And even though they tied themselves down, a lot of people were still
still running away and stuff.
No, with the guys that were tied down, some of the things they tied themselves with broke, like tablecloths and stuff, because the weight of the water and stuff was too heavy.
Yeah, true. So, anyway, eventually Doug and Michael get down into the penthouse, and they tie themselves to
Why do you call it a penthouse?
Well, they keep calling it a penthouse.
You keep calling it penthouse.
Okay, not
penthouse. Penthouse is an apartment.
Okay, not penthouse. The dining area.
The promenade room.
The
promenade deck on the top floor. Yeah.
Okay, promenade. So anyway, they eventually tie themselves down and wait for the moment for the explosives to.
Yeah, they set up something like a 5-minute fuse on the timer.
Yeah, they made it all right.
And they had about 2 minutes to spare, and they're sitting there going, "One."
Yeah, and of course the fire is coming out, and it's coming right into the promenade
to where they were. Yeah, and some of the guys are undoing their
ropes to get
away from the fire, and those guys probably died and got blown out the windows with the water and stuff.
Yeah. So while this is happening, eventually the bombs detonate, and each of the water tanks start detonating.
Yeah, the building really wet itself, didn't it?
Yeah, it started wetting the place, and eventually some of the men's binds undo, and then they start either they end up sliding across.
Like I said, tablecloths and stuff aren't very strong if they're thin enough, and they would the weight of the water hitting them, their body would actually full of material.
One of the waiters ends up getting crushed by a very big statue
fell
that's
onto
in
him.
the middle of the room.
And he was next to the bar, and it just toppled onto him.
And he was bleeding.
And he was a nice man. I liked him.
Yeah, I liked it when he was.
And the mayor died. I don't know what happened. He saw him roll off there into something or other.
You just see him rolling off, and presumably he rolled off the window, out of the window.
I don't know if it's the window. I couldn't tell.
Me
He's looking down there. I don't know. I couldn't see where he went, but he died. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Eventually, the other men, some men got badly burnt and either run the risk of running to get away from some of the fire.
Anyway, irrespective, the water comes down. They go splash, 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 get all over the flames, and gradually the fire is put out by the raising water, we almost live happily ever after by now. But there's a bit more going.
Yes.
A bit more to go.
Yeah. Later on, as they're down on the lower level, let me see, Fred Astaire, he's looking for his lady love interest, Lisa. But according to one of the firemen who was in the elevator with her, he says that she's died.
And he didn't believe him, so he kept calling her name.
Yeah, eventually, he one of the security guards there who had Lisa's cat. She had a cat, just so you know, whom she loves very much, and he gives it to her.
It was a nice little tabby cat. It was real pretty.
Yeah, he saved it before the fire got to it.
You don't want to leave a little pussy cat in a room that's going to be set on fire, do you? No.
Yeah, and there was a bit of a precious moment that he felt, I think that he realised how much she loved him, and he'll probably become a good man for it because of this.
Fred Astaire had met a lady who he fell in love with, and he had her little pussycat to remember by in that night. That's sweet, isn't it?
It's just like having a child, and then looking after it.
He's still broke, though.
I like to think he becomes a better man for it.
He did. I think he was changing when he met this lovely lady who didn't care whether he was a charlatan and whatever. He's a nice man.
And eventually, and of course, Patty finds out her husband's dead, and her father comforts her, telling her that he didn't want her to see him, and he then says that he promises that this will never happen again.
He said something about he said something like, I'm going to make sure this never happens again. So he's going to be instrumental in trying to change the building codes and different things.
Well,
and,
be part of the process.
Yeah, be part of the process, yeah.
And of course, Doug is sitting there with his wife, and the fireman approaches him saying that we saved so many lives tonight. One day, many more people would have died, in one of these skyscrapers. But
he said we only lost so many people tonight.
Yeah.
He didn't say we'd saved so many. We lost so many people. Next time it's going to be a lot worse, and it's going to keep going until someone asks us how to design the buildings.
Yeah. Doug has a brief moment looking at the skyscraper and looking at his wife and probably thinking, this could have changed a lot if his wife got killed in this thing. Yeah. And so he says, okay, I'm asking.
How do I build it? He said, come and see me. You know where I live. Where I work.
Yeah. So they developed a bit of a friendship.
They did a bit of a bond because they worked so close together trying to save everybody. So the architect's going to go to the fire chief and say, okay, what's the best way to design these buildings from a fire perspective? Yeah,
exactly. Try to avoid any more disasters like this.
That reminds me of something. I'm going to digress totally here.
Okay, go ahead.
When you design a building.
Yes.
Okay, nowadays especially, they've got ideas on fire codes and fire safety and pressurised stairwells and yada, yada, yada. You always design a building to cover a worst case scenario. Now it's like if you're doing rock climbing, mountain climbing. No, I don't believe any serious mountain climber would go up, it's like Mount Everest or a big peak like that, without knowing if anything goes wrong, what's the best way to retreat. You need to go up there knowing how to get back if anything goes wrong.
True.
You might be able to go back the same way. You need options open. So, same sort of thing. You really need to cover everything, whether it's building a building or something else. Yeah. Cover all options.
Yeah, just so you guys know, when we went away for a couple of days.
Did we?
A while back.
When?
Probably 2 years ago.
That's what I forgot.
And we went to a hotel. I won't say where, but
Oh, yeah.
we kind of there was no when we were waiting for an elevator. They didn't have a stairwell to allow
No,
us
we
to
did.
walk
They
down,
did have a stairwell, and I wasn't prepared to walk down the stairwell.
and it was mostly a fire exit, just so
No,
you
no,
know.
it's they're all fire exits.
But it didn't really have a proper stairwell that could just let you walk
No,
from floor to floor to floor if you want to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, they don't do it. It's purely off your floor, go down to the ground. Now, we were on the 20th floor from memory, and I was not going to walk down 20 floors because the elevator computer wasn't working properly. Oh, I phoned, we contacted the guy, say, we're on the floor, we want to get down. So they sent a manual elevator up eventually and took us down to the ground floor, and we went out for a dinner or whatever. But we still got out and we still got back. But if we got down to the bottom, and the elevators weren't working totally, we wouldn't be able to get back in the building because the elevators weren't working, and we can't come in the fire exits and go up there because when you get to your floor, you can't get in.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It was just crazy that night,
Bad design.
guys.
Bad
And this was
design.
our first night when we were at that hotel, too.
First night or second night?
First night.
First night, yeah.
Because it
That
was
really
first,
annoyed me.
It really annoyed me,
A
too.
nice, we were in this nice motel, and next door, I think, was it Prince William? No, Prince Harry and his wife or something rather were staying in the building next door. So it's a really nice plush motel, and wow, and they go, this is really good here, and nice location, wonderful views, no bloody elevator.
Yeah, crazy. So, anyway, I did like this movie for many levels. I especially like the fact its dedication.
Yeah, it actually did a nice dedication to all the firefighters and stuff. And I like it because when they do a tribute type movie like this, celebrating the efforts of firemen, emergency service type people, we call them the SES in Australia, you probably call them something else in America.
Yeah. Another thing about this movie is that 1,000 real firefighters were hired throughout this entire production.
Oh, yeah, and they would down for the...
Except for the main characters,
for the
obviously.
outside shots and everything else, and some of the guys probably helping out.
Yeah.
Fighting the fires on some of the scenes.
Yeah, and making sure that if it was under control, if it was a real one.
Well, it's when you're playing a fire, even in a controlled area, there's always the odd chance something's going to be wrong, wrong. Yeah, so yeah. I knew some place down in Victoria. They had this Ned Kelly display thing going at some motel or whatever or someplace. Anyway, part of the tour where you go in there and the building would catch fire, obviously controlled fire, to feel what it was like inside a burning building. Well, the problem is the building caught fire when they're in there. And they had to put it out. So things do happen.
Yes. So anyway, as we're saying, I did like the dedication where they just dedicated to all the people who helped them, like the Chicago Fire Department.
It wasn't Chicago.
Okay,
Look, you're
no,
not wrong.
I mean,
it was
San Francisco.
San Francisco
Sorry.
and Los Angeles fire departments assisted, and I think a consultant from both of them helped with the logistics, helping the director set it up properly, and
the knowledge,
consultants.
The parts about where we'd mentioned about where
want to make it
certain,
real.
when McQueen asked the security guard about certain gases that will happen during a fire like this.
Yeah, and then he said, I think cyanide, wool gives off cyanide gas, and ping pong balls will give off another sort of toxic fume, and it would be even hard for him to breathe.
Keeping it
Trying to keep it
real.
real, and that's what I keep saying several times. A good fantasy or good fiction has to have a sense of reality.
True.
And this is a fictional movie, obviously, but it feels so real because everyone say, well, this could happen. It's a real building scenario type thing. Yeah, things do happen. So yeah, it feels real, and that's why I think it's a good movie because the reality it comes out in the direction and the DOPs and everybody else and the special effects guys. And bearing in mind they didn't have graphic design type work or other things, computer generated graphic. It's all wet film stuff and model makings and the old school. This going back about 50 odd years.
Yeah,
and these guys made a damn fine movie.
Yeah, apart from a few technical weird bits.
A couple of things I'm not going to say what they were, but things we picked up on.
Like angling.
No, choice. Let them find out. No, but overall, it's more of an impression as well. And what we saw with that didn't look quite right, but it doesn't matter. It's a good movie. It's one of the, I would say it's probably the best or second best disaster type movies they made back in that time. I mean, you had Poseidon Adventure, you had this, you had, I think, Earthquake, you had some other ones rolling around there. I think this is the top of the pile.
Yeah, let's discuss those reviews you mentioned to me
Well,
earlier.
I'm not going to go through all the reviews.
Just mention a couple of
No, I'm
ones
going
we
to
don't
say
like.
most of the reviews were very, very positive. Okay? They said, hey, good storyline, good special effects, good directing, good filming, good acting. So a couple of them said, well, the story was a little bit lame, but the special effects and the fire part carried it.
Whatever.
Well, the story is about a fire disaster. It's not a slasher movie. It's so you get some basic drama stuff going on, bit of character development going on, as one would in a movie, trying to breathe some life into the characters, and then around them you got this building burning down, and it's getting worse and worse and worse, and the action gradually creeps up on you, and you're thrown to the thick of it later on in the movie. Yes, some people say it's an overly long movie. I don't think it's overly long to fit the storyline in.
Yes.
It's a damn fine movie. I don't know exactly how long it lasts, about 2 hours, whatever. It's a long movie, but it's a good watch.
What was the other review? I think you said that was a really terrible one.
And give me a minute. I got notes here. I can't remember everything.
No.
Here's one. Gene Siskel from the Chicago Tribune gave the film 2.5 stars out of 4, calling it a stunt and not a story. It's a technical achievement more concerned with special effects than with people. That's why her attitude towards the film's cardboard characters is let them burn.
Oh, brother.
Now, wait, here's one. Wait a minute. Where's no? Okay, here. Pauline Kael from The New Yorker. She panned the writing and characters as retreads from the Poseidon Adventure. Considering one's on a boat and the film's centered around these people trying to escape by crawling up through the hull of the boat and whatever, and this movie is about all these people being saved by people, I can't see anything similar in the two movies. Now, she further wrote, what was left out of this was the hokey fun. Hokey, weird fun, weird shit. When a picture has any kind of entertainment in it, viewers don't much care about credibility. But when it isn't entertaining, we do. And when a turkey bores us and insults our intelligence for 3 hours, it's a 3-hour movie, sorry, it shouldn't preen itself on its own morality.
Yeah. Speaking of turkeys,
you're
a big turkey woman.
What a load of claptrap. I mean, she doesn't like that sort of movies. Tough tits, I'm sorry, but I mean, she's insulting the producers and directors, and this thing grossed pretty damn good at the box office. I mean, they made it to 14 million, and they made 200 million at the box office. Hello? What does she know?
She's a real turkey.
Yeah.
Now that's a word.
And that's what I don't like. I hate reviewers.
Yeah,
Most
especially
of them are negative and horrible.
Yeah, especially the old ones who just think I like movies. Well, not really. I don't even know what they like.
And this part here, what you just said there about when a picture has
Sometimes I wish
about the credibility. It was a fictional bloody movie made to look real, and I don't think it came across as real as any other movie.
Yeah.
So maybe she didn't watch the movie.
Maybe she didn't pay attention.
Maybe she went for a 2-hour-long pee break in the toilet,
Yeah, and
and came back and you saw the beginning, saw the end, didn't see the middle of it, didn't make much sense to her.
She probably didn't see the janitor bit where the thing got started.
Yeah.
Which I think this is a key point to the story when you think about it.
Here's one other. Vincent Canby from the New York Times wrote, the film is overwrought and silly in its personal drama.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called character development. But the visual spectacle is first rate. You may not come out of the theatre with any important ideas about American architecture or enterprise, but you will have had a vivid, completely safe nightmare.
Yeah, guys, if you can see my hand now, it's doing
You got one of her fingers pointing up in the air. Okay.
yes.
You can't.
This is you can't please these reviewers,
No.
guys.
Yeah,
They're just,
a lot of these reviewers are that they can't make a film, so they bag movies. You know, I'm sorry. You know, if you can't do it, stop complaining about it.
I
Anyway,
don't even know who hires these people to do this.
that's a job. Someone's got to do it.
I don't know. Maybe they just don't. Maybe their editor keeps encouraging them to say something negative about it.
Anyway, irrespective, moving on. I'm going to leave the reviewers alone now. I'm not going to say too much more apart from the fact this movie is still available and doing well. I think it's in Blu-ray form as well.
Sweet.
Available on Amazon and eBay and probably a few other outlets as well.
And I do like the character development, and
Yeah.
I like the fact we get, say,
Yeah.
a few scenes between some characters to give it a little bit of backstory.
Yeah, and you got like the boss who built the building and his son-in-law who undercut on the electricals created the fire. Mm-hmm. The architect's got to try and fix up the problem and becomes friends with the fire chief. They've only got the architect's got his own personal story going on behind the scenes. The architect's marriage is falling, the electrical contractor's marriage is falling apart because he's got an attitude problem. There's little things going on, little stories within stories. And if you like a good story, as well as the drama and the action of the film itself, it's got everything you need.
And bear in mind, as I said before, the writer who written Die Hard was inspired by this movie.
Yeah.
So technically, it's a good, well-rounded movie.
I'm inspired by the special effects and the DOP. The filming is great. Mm-hmm. All the right sort of actions, and the guy who edited it made a really good go of it. I mean, the editing,
Agreed.
The continuity, everything is great. It all fits nicely. It's a good package, a good product.
Exactly.
So I'd say 10 out of 10 for this one.
Yeah, and I agree. I like the.
Sorry, 10.5 out of 10.
I do like the actors they chose, despite dear old William Holden acting like a total child.
He wanted to get top billing because I'm wonderful. But the point, he didn't have the lead role.
It's the same with Fred Astaire, who didn't have a complete lead role in this
Actually, that's
movie.
talking about Fred. Fred had a long career, and this is towards the end of his acting career, I think, from memory. And this is the first time he got nominated for any awards
Wow.
for his depiction of that role he did, which is I like Fred. I mean, I watched a lot of the old musicals and stuff, and I grew up on old movies and
Yeah,
new
I
movies.
watched
and,
the one
yeah.
with called Funny Face with him and Audrey.
Brilliant man.
Brilliant man.
There it is. Here we go. He received his only Oscar nomination for this film in all his career.
Wow.
He also won both a BAFTA award and a Golden Globe award for his performance.
Who else won awards? Did they say?
I don't care.
Okay.
I talk about Fred.
I know. Just like
No, when you get an old guy who's had a long career and no one's acknowledged him, and finally he gets an acknowledgement, that's really good stuff. I like that. Yeah.
Anyway, so I do think this movie is worth watching, guys, more than once.
It is. It's a top watch. It's a long haul. I thought about 2+ hours. No, it's up to 3 hours.
I think that the fire kind of draws you in throughout the production.
Yeah, if you're interested, if you're not a person who just wants to get your jollies, watch lots of action all the time, like a station movie, people running around, all the way through the movie.
Do you think that most of the people who watched it, who reviewed it, thought that it was too long, and that's why they were complaining about it?
Well, I mean, look at what Cleopatra.
Yeah.
With Liz Taylor. That was a long movie.
Yeah.
Some of Cecil B. DeMille things. They were overly long movies, but they told a good story. You take something out, you're going to lose something. So you can't. Look at Lord of the Rings. I think the first movie went for almost 3 hours. The second movie went for close to 4 hours. Yeah. Yeah, it's like it almost have a two-part in one movie.
And bear in mind, remember the Titanic movie I told you guys about
which one?
James Cameron in it?
Which one's that one? The Catherine Zeta-Jones one?
Leonardo DiCaprio one.
Yeah,
that one. That one was like many hours,
Yep.
and that movie still grips people and still keeps me on
How
the
long
edge
is
of
that
the
for, movie?
on the edge.
The continuity, everything is. First time we got nominated for any memory, and this is the first acting career, I think. From had a long career, and this is towards the end of his. Fred, talking about Fred,
Wow.
film in all his career, Oscar nomination for this. He received his only. Here we go, man.
Brilliant Man.
Here it is.
And Audrey.
Brilliant.
Face with him and
Yeah,
the one
yeah.
with called Funny. Yeah,
New
I
movies
watched
and grew up on old movies and I like the old musicals and stuff. And Fred, I mean, I watched a lot, which is I like that role he did for his depiction of for the awards.
Wow.
The film, I don't care.
Okay, so
No,
they say-
I don't.
Who else won an award?
Golden Globe Award for his performance, the BAFTA Award, and he also won both special effects and the DO chief.
Throughout the production, kind of draws you into the fire.
3 hours.
I think that
Last hour, no, it's up to about 3. I thought about 2. It's a long haul. It's a top watch.
watching guys more than
it
once is worth watching. I do think this movie anyway. So
Like that, yeah. Acknowledgement, that's really good stuff. He gets the, and finally, no one's acknowledged him. Long career, and you get an old guy who's had a long.
no, just like
No,
Okay.
I talk about Fred, who just wants to get. You're not a person who, if you're not if you're interested, becomes friends with the fire, to try to fix up the problem, and engrossed pretty damn good at them now, you're going to lose something. Story. You take some movies, but they told a good. They were overly long movies. Some of Cecil B. DeMille things movie.
Yeah.
Taylor. That was long.
Yeah.
With what Cleopatra. Look at I mean.
Were complaining about it.
Well,
It was too long, and that's why they thought they watched it, who reviewed it. That most of the people who watched
all the way through the
you
movie,
think-
people running around all the time, like a station movie. Jolly's watched lots of action. The movie went for almost 3 hours. I think the first movie went for. Look at Lord of the Rings. So you can't. And directors, and this thing, the producer, it's insulting the movie.
on the end still keeps me
The
on
hell
the
is
edge
that?
of the still grips people, and that movie has still hours
Yep.
and say so
Okay,
many
yeah.
hours.
Oh, yeah,
That
yeah,
one
yeah,
was
right,
like Rio one.
Yeah,
That one,
yeah, no.
Leonardo
The
DiCaprio.
Catherine Zeta-Jones
Yeah,
one.
Cameron in it.
Which one's that one? Which one?
Told you guys about the Titanic movie. And bear in mind,
Yeah,
remember,
that's one movie. Awards
wow.
for his depiction of that role he did, which is I like Fred. I mean, I watched a lot of the old musicals and stuff, and I